Hey all, welcome to week 11. I'm going to try to keep this brief because I know that many of you are feeling overwhelmed with the amount of material at this point in time. Just hang in there with me. This is very normal for this time of the semester. Most anatomy students start to feel a little bit of burnout right now. And so this is that time where if you can, again, you just kind of have to like push through this point. It gets easier after you got through exam 3 because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So hang in there. Hang in there. If you're struggling, again, you're welcome to set up a time with me. I can always do a Zoom with you. So just please email me and keep in touch with me. Really quickly, so we are on week 11. This week for lecture, we are starting the nervous system. So I'm just going to pull this up here to show you kind of where you'll be. So we are doing the nervous system and nervous tissue, the very first lecture for that. And this is really an important lecture and kind of a little bit challenging that it's got another big pathway. So just like we had muscle contraction and the whole pathway for that, in the molecular pathway for that in the last chapter, in this chapter we're going to have nerve conduction and action potentials. So I watch the lecture again, print the PowerPoint, watch the lectures, and I break them up into kind of smaller lectures again for you. And then when you're all done with that, come over here and watch these Pearson A&P Flicks. Open the PowerPoint. So it's a PowerPoint file. When you open this, you do need to download it. So I'm just going to kind of show you what you should do, but you want to download it. I know some people were saying that they were struggling with opening the actual flicks. So you do need to make sure you download that PowerPoint, and then you can click on the files from there and they should play for you. So let me go ahead and open this for you. And then you could just, when you open this, you want to go ahead and put it in presentation mode. So I'm just going to move this up for a second. So you put it in presentation mode, and then once you do that, then you can play the files from there. And then just make sure that you turn your sound up. So
the human brain
you
alone contains about 100 billion nerve cells.
So hopefully those A&P flicks will really help you out. So again, for the nervous tissue, make sure that you are going through the pathway. I know that it's challenging because it's another pathway, right? You have the muscle contraction pathway, you've got nerve conduction now with action potentials. So make sure that this is one that I suggest you write out step by step, put it on your mirror next to muscle contraction. So that way then you can look at it every day. And then again, use those A&P flicks. I think they're really helpful for visualizing what's going on. I can also post the Amoeba Sisters does a great video on action potentials as well. So I'll try to go ahead and post that for you in the announcement. So those are some tricks for going through nervous tissue. Also, again, you'll see, sorry, I jumped out of here, but you'll also see that for the nervous tissue, you do have a quiz due on November 4th. So that quiz should give you a good idea of kind of where you're at with the material at that point in time. Now, again, if you're struggling with this material, please set up some time to meet with me and we can go over that. There's also the tutoring lab. I just want to remind you because you can go there not only to get tutoring for lecture, and this is both at Southern and Dobson and the Red Mountain campus, but you can also go there to actually see the models if you want to actually see the muscle models in person. And I highly suggest that if you're struggling with identifying the muscles. So with that, let's go ahead and let's move over and let's talk about lab. So I'm trying to make these announcements a little briefer for you because I know that you guys have plenty to do. So let me just show you for this week. We are, again, continuing on the lower appendage. So we're doing the lower appendages, the legs basically. And again, you can start out with the handout, which at least kind of goes over which muscles you're responsible for. And it'll go over, again, the origin, insertion, and action. And then as you go down here, you can see, again, there's the worksheets if you want to, practice on those worksheets with just identification. There are videos for you as well, which I think are quite helpful. Pam Harrison did these videos and she did a great job on them. So they're great for introducing the muscles. So, watch those initially. And then there's these wonderful Sketchfab 3D models, the virtual models. So I think these are great. You can expand, remember that you can expand this full screen here. And it's great because you can, again, you can rotate these around, and I'm kind of zoomed in here, but you can see that, like, here you can click on this and it'll tell you it's the sartorius muscle, and then it will tell you what it does. So here it flexes thigh, laterally rotates, flexes the leg. So, and then you can see it over here, and then you can go through and kind of test yourself on, the muscles of the legs. So this is a great, I love that you can kind of turn it around and move it around. And it really is a great tool to be able to use if you're really kind of like struggling with seeing these models kind of in that 3D format. So hopefully that will be useful for you, and you can zoom out of it. Then lastly, again, there are lots of practice materials, lots of flashcards for you to use. Like here, Dr. Morley had put together, again, we all kind of hodgepodged. We each kind of took sections and did these StudyMate flashcards. So that's why you'll see kind of different professors on different sections, in anatomy sections. And so I did a lot of 202 and so we kind of split it up that way, but that's why you'll see different instructor names on that. So Dr. Morley was in charge of this, and she did some great flashcards. It's kind of nice because you can start out with just the identification of the muscle flashcards, and then you can move on to the origin and insertion and actions. So I think that kind of helps in terms of kind of breaking things up. There are some cadaver videos if you like. And then, of course, there are the practice quizzes. So hopefully those practice quizzes are kind of giving you a good idea of where you're at. After that, there are 2 practice practicals. One is just purely muscle identification. So just if you want to just practice just identifying the muscle, then you can do that on this practical. But it's nice because it's, practicing it where you have to spell it out, which is, again, different than if you were just, again, matching things up. And then the muscle practice practical would be just, again, like the other practice practicals that you've done in the past. Again, just keep in mind that I'm not there to hand check it. So remember that, your grade will probably come out lower than it really would if I'm hand checking them. Okay. The other thing I want to remind you is that try to look at some of these muscles and try to put the actions try to put them into perspective from, an action that might kind of come to mind for you. And I'll give you an example of this. So for the sartorius, whenever I think of the sartorius, I always think of a tree pose. So I'm going to pull this up here. So the sartorius muscle helps us do, I'm just picking a random picture of a person doing tree pose here. Helps, I think if you can remember the 3 actions that the sartorius muscle does is what gets you in tree pose. So here you're going to laterally rotate. So take that thigh and rotate it laterally. Okay, again, at the thigh here. And then you're going to flex the thigh. So you're flexing the thigh here and flexing the knee. And that brings you to sartorius pose. So do that action yourself, Feel yourself rotate your leg laterally, then flex your thigh and flex your leg. Okay, so when we say flex the thigh, remember that's flexion of this upper portion of your leg. And then we say flex the leg, that means flexing the lower leg. Okay, so as you do that, then you can actually feel that sartorius muscle and you can feel it contract. So try to do some of those actions, and just that activity of doing that action yourself helps you to remember some of those actions. So I think it's just easier to try to decrease the amount of memorization that you have to do. So that's just a little trick for these muscle actions. I think that's all I have for you. So please, again, keep in mind that if you have any questions, you can always email me, or we can always set up a time to talk. All right, that's it, guys. Good luck.